After my promotion, I closed the last $42,000 of the mortgage as a gift to my wife. But that night, I heard her laughing with a friend on the phone. Now that the house is all ours, I can get rid of it and keep it all without a shred of regret. I didn't say anything, just sat there and listened. But inside, I already had a plan forming. This morning, my wife showed up at the door, in her robe with wet hair, screaming, "He took everything." I don't even know where to begin. My hands are shaking just typing this. But I need to get it out of my head because I feel like I'm losing my mind. If you're reading this, I'm not looking for sympathy. I just want to know if anyone else has ever been blindsided like this. Because right now, I'm stuck in that surreal, this can't be real feeling. My name's Alex. I've been married to Kate for almost a decade. 10 years of my life invested in what I thought was a solid, stable relationship. No kids, just our dog, Baxter. He's the only one in this mess who's actually normal. We met in a weird, almost forgettable way. A mutual friend dragged her to this low-key game night my brother hosted. I wasn't even planning to go, but I owed Victor for fixing my car after a crash. Neither of us really played the game. We just sat in the kitchen, eating chips and arguing about song lyrics. Somehow that worked. We clicked and it was easy. Maybe too easy. Looking back now, I can't believe how blind I was. There were signs, little things I brushed off. Kate was always a planner, always obsessed with security. Money was her comfort blanket. I thought I was being supportive when I focused on building a stable life for us. A few years ago, I got a decent promotion. Nothing crazy, but enough to make me think, why not just pay off the mortgage early? Give us both a fresh start, debt-free. I planned it as a surprise. I set up a nice dinner, even lit some candles, nothing too fancy. When I told Kate the news, she acted thrilled. She even hugged me, posted some sappy Instagram story about being #blessed and #adulting. I thought I'd done something good, but almost immediately, she got distant. At first, I thought she was just processing it. But then she started spending more time on her phone, always scrolling, always texting. She was cold, distracted. I convinced myself it was just stress from work, that she'd snap out of it. But one night, everything shattered. It was late. I'd been lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. I went downstairs for some water, and that's when I heard it. Kate's voice, echoing softly from the living room. I peeked around the corner, and there she was, FaceTiming with her friend Rachel. She was laughing, not a soft chuckle, but a full, unrestrained cackle. Now that the house is paid off, I can finally drop his sorry ass and take everything, she said, barely holding back laughter. I played the long game. No guilt. Rachel laughed along with her, saying she knew this was coming, that Kate deserved better, that I'd never see it coming. I stood there, frozen. My whole body felt cold. My own wife, 10 years together, talking about me like I was just some stepping stone. Like all of it, every fight, every conversation, every quiet moment, was just a strategy for her. I was a pawn. I didn't know what to do. My first instinct was to storm in, to demand answers, to scream. But I couldn't. I went back upstairs, left the glass of water on the counter, and just sat in the dark. Baxter came and laid his head on my leg, sensing something was wrong. I just stared into the darkness, feeling the weight of everything crashing down on me. The next morning, Kate acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, asked if I wanted eggs, scrolled through her phone. She even smiled at me like we were just another happy couple. I watched her, trying to see through the mask. I wondered how long she'd been planning this, how many times she'd laughed at me behind my back. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed time to think, to understand. I started watching her more closely. Every glance, every text, every moment she'd disappear into the bathroom with her phone. I remembered all those times we argued about money. All the times she called me short-sighted or lacking ambition. And suddenly everything made sense. Kate wasn't just cautious about money. She was obsessed with it. Her parents lost their house when she was in high school. Her dad bailed, leaving her mom struggling to make ends meet. Kate always said she'd never feel trapped like that again. But I never thought she'd see me as the thing she needed to escape from. I kept my mouth shut and just watched. Every time she laughed at her phone, I wondered if she was laughing at me. Every time she kissed me, I wondered if it was just part of her act. I was living in a house I'd paid for, with a woman who saw me as nothing but a paycheck. But I wasn't going to play the fool. Not again. I'd already heard enough. And if Kate thought she was the only one who could play games, she was wrong. I didn't sleep much after that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard her voice echoing in my head. I played the long game. No guilt. And that cold, sharp laugh. Part of me wanted to believe I'd misunderstood, that maybe I'd overreacted. But deep down I knew. I knew what I'd heard. The next few days were a blur. I went through the motions, work, eating, pretending to sleep. Kate's behavior didn't change much. She was still glued to her phone, scrolling, texting, and occasionally glancing at me with that same distant, distracted look. I forced myself to act normal. I smiled, made small talk, even kissed her goodbye in the mornings. But every time I looked at her, I felt like I was staring at a stranger. I needed a plan. I wasn't going to confront her without proof, without something solid. If I went in blind, she'd twist the story, make me look paranoid or controlling. I knew how good she was at spinning things. I'd seen her do it to others, friends, coworkers, even her own family. She could cry on cue, turn on that innocent charm, and suddenly everyone was on her side. So I started small. I checked our bank accounts first. Nothing unusual at first glance, but I wasn't stupid. I knew she could have money stashed away somewhere. I double-checked our joint account, then my personal one. I changed the password on mine, just in case. Moved some money out, nothing too drastic, just enough to feel a little safer. Next, I started packing. Not obviously, not in a way she'd notice right away. Just small things, old collectibles, my tools, my favorite video game console. I told her my brother Victor needed to borrow a few things, and she barely looked up from her phone. Whatever, she muttered, her voice flat. That's when I knew she was already gone, at least mentally. Her interest in me, in our life, had faded completely. And it hurt. God, did it hurt. 10 years, and she'd already checked out without even the courtesy of saying goodbye. But I wasn't going to let that pain cloud my judgment. If she wanted to play games, fine. I'd just play smarter. I kept listening, watching. A few days later, I overheard her on the phone with Rachel again. Only this time, she wasn't even trying to be quiet. She was laughing, talking about looking at new apartments, just in case. I stood just out of sight, my hands clenched into fists. I wasn't just some backup plan. I wasn't going to be her stepping stone. But I still needed more time. I moved a little faster. I started transferring more of my stuff to Victor's garage, tools, the TV, the stereo. I cleared out most of my clothes, leaving just enough for her not to get suspicious. I told her I was decluttering, going for a minimalist vibe. She rolled her eyes and told me I was being ridiculous. But she didn't suspect. Not yet. Then came the credit cards. I paid off my balances, made sure none of our joint cards had any new charges. I canceled the ones I didn't use and switched my direct deposit to my personal account. I wasn't about to leave her access to my money. Not after what I'd heard. And through it all, she kept acting. Smiling at me in the mornings, scrolling Instagram, taking selfies with Baxter. She even tried to be affectionate a few times, leaning against me on the couch, asking if I wanted to order takeout. I played along, but every touch felt cold. Every kiss felt fake. I started documenting everything. Every text, every receipt, every bank statement. I needed proof, not just for myself, but for whatever came next. If she tried to take me to court, if she tried to spin this into some sob story where I was the villain, I'd be ready. And then she slipped. It was a Thursday night. I was pretending to read a book, but really I was watching her. She left her laptop open on the kitchen counter, then went upstairs to take a shower. I wasn't planning to snoop, but the screen caught my eye. An email, still open. Subject, divorce checklist. I felt my heart drop into my stomach. My fingers were shaking as I clicked it, just skimming the contents. It was exactly what it sounded like: guides, links to lawyers, a list of what she needed to prepare. I glanced at the other tabs. Apartment listings, a budgeting spreadsheet, even a link to some self-help article about starting over after a toxic relationship. That's when I knew I wasn't just being paranoid. She was planning it. Actively planning it. I didn't close the tabs. I didn't touch anything. Just went back to the living room, kept my face neutral when she came downstairs in her bathrobe. She smiled at me, asked if I'd seen her charger. I said it was in the bedroom. I couldn't even look at her. From that moment, I moved fast. I started moving more of my stuff, documenting everything, even taking pictures of the furniture that was mine, the electronics I'd bought, even Baxter's bed. I wasn't leaving anything she could use against me. And I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of leaving me blindsided. But I wasn't ready to leave. Not yet. I needed her to make the first move. I needed to see just how far she was willing to go. I wasn't just going to let Kate walk all over me. If she wanted to play games, I'd play too, but smarter. That cold, calculating calm settled over me and I started moving fast. I didn't tell anyone at first. I didn't want to look like a paranoid idiot in case I was somehow wrong. But I knew I wasn't. I'd heard her say it clear as day. So I did the one thing I could do. I planned. First, I began separating my finances. I changed my direct deposit at work to go to my personal account instead of our joint one. I left just enough in the joint account to cover bills for a couple of weeks, nothing more. Kate didn't seem to notice at first, but I knew it was only a matter of time. Next, I started packing my things. Nothing too obvious, just small stuff, my tools, my gaming console, my old records, and a few pieces of my dad's old camera gear that I knew I'd never get back if I left them behind. I told Kate that Victor needed to borrow some of my stuff and she barely looked up from her phone. Whatever, she mumbled. But I was watching her and she was watching me. I'd catch her glancing at me when she thought I wasn't looking. The way her fingers would hover over her phone a little too long before putting it down. The way she'd ask vague questions like, have you thought about upgrading the car? Or maybe we should start planning a vacation next year. It was all just off. Then, one night, she slipped up again. I came home from work and saw her laptop open on the kitchen counter. Normally, she'd keep it locked, but this time she was in such a rush that she left it there. And the tab was still open, apartment listings. I didn't touch it, didn't snoop. But I didn't need to. It was right there, she was already looking for her next move. So I moved faster. I called my brother Victor and told him I'd be dropping off a few more things. He didn't ask too many questions, just said I could use his garage whenever. I started moving out everything that mattered to me, my books, my tools, even Baxter's spare bed. I didn't want to leave anything behind that I cared about. But I kept playing along. I smiled at Kate. I laughed at her jokes. I even told her she should go get that new couch she'd been talking about. She smirked at me, that same smug smile she'd given me the night I told her the house was paid off. And then she got bolder. One night, while we were having dinner, she casually mentioned that maybe it was time to rethink our future. I asked her what she meant and she smiled. Well, now that we're debt-free, maybe we should focus on making sure we both have options. Options, I repeated, forcing a smile. Sounds smart. She watched me, waiting for a reaction, but I gave her nothing. Just kept eating. She got up, slammed her plate into the sink, and stormed upstairs. That's when I knew she was getting impatient. And that was my chance. I kept documenting everything. Took pictures of everything I moved out. Recorded conversations whenever she started her passive-aggressive comments. I needed a paper trail, proof that she was pushing for a way out, not me. And then she slipped up one last time. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to watch TV when I heard her talking to Rachel again. She wasn't even whispering this time. He's acting so weird, wretch. Like, I think he knows something. But whatever. Once I have my place lined up, I'll just tell him I need space. He'll probably just cry about it. I felt something in me snap. Cry about it? Not a chance. I didn't confront her. I didn't even flinch. I just kept my face blank and waited for her to leave the room. The next day, I packed the last of my things. I took Baxter's food, his toys, even his little bed. I loaded everything into my car, made sure my important documents were secure, and texted Victor. I'll be crashing at your place for a while. He just replied with a thumbs up. That night, I wrote a note and left it on the kitchen counter. Nothing dramatic, just, you wanted options. Now you have them. Good luck. And then I walked out, locked the door, and left. I parked a few blocks away, just out of sight. I wanted to see what she'd do. Maybe that was petty, but I needed to know. It didn't take long. About an hour later, just as the sun was setting, I saw her burst out of the house in her bathrobe, phone pressed to her ear, screaming. She was yelling at someone, I'm guessing Rachel, saying, he's gone. He took everything. What do I do now? She saw the empty living room. Saw that Baxter's stuff was gone. And she panicked. I watched her storm back inside, heard doors slamming, her muffled shouting. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt free. It didn't take long for the fallout to start. The very next day, Kate's calls began, endless, furious voicemails alternating between desperate apologies and vicious accusations. How could you do this to me? One message would say, followed by, you're going to regret this, Alex. I didn't answer any of them. I wasn't going to get dragged into her drama. I'd seen enough, heard enough. I knew what she was capable of and I wasn't playing her game anymore. My brother Victor was a lifesaver. He let me crash at his place, no questions asked. Baxter settled in immediately, curling up on an old throw rug like it was his new kingdom. For the first time in years, I actually felt calm. But Kate wasn't done. She went on a campaign, calling everyone, our friends, my family, even Victor. She spun the story her way, saying I'd lost it, that I'd abandoned her with nothing. Some people believed her at first. My mom called me, voice thick with concern, asking if I was okay, if I was really doing this. I had to explain everything, how I'd heard her planning to leave, how she'd been setting up a separate life right under my nose. Thankfully, Victor backed me up. He told anyone who would listen that he'd seen it coming, that Kate was always too calculating, too obsessed with security. Slowly, the tide turned. Mutual friends stopped messaging me, some even unfollowed Kate online. Her carefully curated image of a devastated wife started to crack. But Kate wasn't done. She tried to take the house. She showed up with her mom one day, banging on the door, demanding I come back and talk. Victor told them to leave. When that didn't work, she called the police, claiming I'd stolen my own stuff. But by then, I was ready. I had photos, receipts, everything. I sent copies to my lawyer, just in case. Her desperation grew. She left angry voicemails, then crying ones. Her mother called me, pleading for me to just work things out like adults. But I was done. I blocked Kate's number, changed my email, removed her from any joint accounts she still had access to. And then came the divorce papers. She tried everything, accused me of hiding money, claimed I'd emotionally abused her. But she had nothing. No proof, no witnesses, just her word against mine. I provided everything to my lawyer, texts, emails, even a few screenshots of her talking to Rachel about her plan. The judge saw right through it. She didn't get the house. She didn't get my savings. And most importantly, she didn't get Baxter. That was her final gambit, trying to claim that the dog was hers even though she'd never walked him, never fed him, never even played with him. The judge shut her down without a second thought. When the divorce was finalized, I thought I'd feel triumphant. But mostly, I just felt tired. I found a small place a few towns over. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I started fresh, new job, new routines. Victor would visit sometimes, bringing his kids. Baxter would bark at them for stealing his spot on the couch, then settle in like nothing happened. But Kate wasn't done. Months later, she started sending emails. Begging, apologizing, then blaming me again. I ignored them. I wasn't going back. Not after everything I'd seen, everything I'd heard. Then, a year later, I heard she'd lost the house. Couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments. I wasn't surprised. She'd spent so long trying to secure everything for herself that she forgot how to actually manage it. I heard she moved back in with her mom, and I didn't feel a thing. Not hate, not pity, just nothing. Over time, the chaos faded. The messages stopped. Her name became just a memory, a reminder of a life I'd outgrown. And for the first time in years, I felt free. But last week, it all came rushing back. My dad called me, his voice thick with emotion. Alex, I just got off the phone with Kate. She's in a bad place. Says you ruined her life. I don't know, I wanted you to know that I love you. I always have. I didn't even know how to respond. I just sat there, listening to his shaky voice, feeling a weird mix of anger and sadness. Dad, I'm fine. Don't worry about me, I told him. See you Sunday. He sent me a heart emoji and I just stared at it for a while. I don't hate Kate. Not anymore. I don't love her either. She's just someone I used to know. Someone who chose her own path, who thought control was the same as happiness. I still think about it sometimes, the way she laughed with Rachel, the way she thought she'd won. But I know now that winning isn't about having the last word or taking the most. Sometimes winning is just walking away. And I won.